Welcome to the Performance Portfolio Podcast with Coop and Coop. Greg Cooper and Cooper Allen bridge the gap between performance and finance to help you build a stronger life and a more resilient future. Let's get into today's episode.
Coop, I have a question for you right off the bat. Are you the best version of yourself?
Not even close. You know that. That's got to be rhetorical, right?
No, well, it was a serious question. And the reason why I bring this up, we had a very big topic last week of why repetition is so important in personal development. And we went a lot of different ways with it, but the one that we didn't go down is the best version of yourself and why personal development and being the best version of yourself are so important to focus on. And that being the best version of yourself isn't just about being better than other people, because it's not about that at all. It's you versus you, not you versus everybody else in comparison. That is where the ego kicks in. So I'll ask again. Are you the best version of yourself?
No, not at all. And um, I hope when people get that question asked, I hope when you hear that you reflect and you think, man, if the point is to never be. The point, this is supposed to be an infinite game. And I think when you have that mindset, it allows you to not take things crazy personally. We spend time around a lot of people that get offended when they feel like they're not good enough. And the goal should never be good enough. I think Gary Vee does a really good job nuancing this because he talks about like, hey, you're already enough. So as a human being, you're already enough. Your life is worth something, all that type of stuff. That is all true. But it's separating that from, okay, I'm enough today in terms of my value as a human. Now, how do I get better? How do I grow? And if somebody wants to say, "Hey, yeah, I don't think you're fit enough or wealthy enough or intellectual enough maybe to be in this room," um, there's levels to the game. That's the whole point, is working towards becoming the most compassionate version of yourself, the most patient version of yourself, the most direct version of yourself, uh, the highest performing version of yourself. And if it's about money, for example, if you're making X amount of money and you're satisfied with that, I don't need to make any more money. Okay, perfect. Well, then the next version is figuring out how to do that, but have it passive instead of active. Or how do you do that and make it more impactful for your community as well, not just for your bank account? Or how do you do that on less time? So now it takes you 30 hours a week to do this right now. Can you do it for 20 so you can be a more present spouse or parent or friend and do more things that you enjoy doing? Um, or you're comfortable at this level. Well, can you be comfortable at this level for you, but then get to make this much more money and then immediately just donate it to charity or church or something that's going to make a difference? So I think there's a big thing with personal development is I think people a lot of times, Greg, and this is something you and I have not talked about this, so I'm curious to get your take on this. I think people confuse personal development with therapy because they treat therapy a lot of times as like it's an all about me show. I'm in my feels. I need a solution for my feelings and my thoughts and my beliefs. And then people come into personal development and they treat it the same way when the reality is, to me, I look at personal development as I need to get better so that I can bring more value to the marketplace, to my family, to my community. And the best version of myself is going to be the one that shows up that, yeah, is all the things I said earlier, more compassionate, more patient, more understanding, more wealthier, in better shape, on my A game, thinking better. So, um, yeah, was there anything there that really kind of connected for you?
For sure. The very first thing that popped into my head is, and we briefly talked about this idea a few weeks ago when we were talking about communication and being overreachable. But what that is it's not about you. And there's a great scene from the remake of Point Break. They're the group of them, the four of them are snowboarding this impossible peak, and they're the part of the movie is they have to do these eight like crazy extreme sports feats that nobody's done before. And in the process, one of the guys falls off a cliff and dies. And the main character, Johnny Utah, is like, "No, that was my line," and he's losing his mind, like, "We gotta go back." And then Bodhi, who's the main bad guy in it, is like, "It's not about you." As soon as he dropped in, it was his line. And like in that scene, in that moment, if you read between the lines and really look, it's like, whoa, because it isn't. Just because someone's followed you or has been coached by you or mentored by you or is your best friend and they make a mistake because advice you did or didn't give them, it's not about you. They're their own individual who can make their own individual choices. And yeah, you might feel bad, especially if it's a substantial thing, but you can't be selfish and own that. And it's something I have to work on all the time. I take take that for people. That's what I do. I take on their sadness, their defeat, and I go, "Hey, that's on me. I told you it was going to work, or I gave you that advice." And I believe a lot of people in a coaching role have that and have been there. But it's not about you. It's about the person. They still, at the end of the day, made their own individual choices and reactions and took their own path because as soon as they dropped in, it was their line, not yours.
Exactly. Exactly. One of the things that I said last week that ties in with this as well is I said I went through a point in my personal development journey where I started doing all the things, the books and the podcasts and the conferences and whatever, and got to a point where I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm here now. I've quote unquote made it, if you will. All the personal development starting to sound the same, and um, then had the realization after I stopped personally developing for a while that, hey, if I'm not filling my subconscious with personal development, I am then filling it with other garbage, for lack of a better term, basically. Um, so had that realization. But the other thing that people do, and I'm glad I didn't go down this road, is that when people plateau at a certain level of personal development, and it's different levels for all people, but it comes with the better than complex. You look back and you say, okay, I've now read Mel Robbins' Let Them. So now I'm more at peace and I just let people do things and I don't let it bother me. So then the next time I'm at lunch with one of my girlfriends, uh, or I'm at lunch with my mom and she's getting caught up and freaking out about, did you hear this person said this and whatever? And I'm like, yeah, but mom, just let them, like, just read this book. But you're coming at it from a place of like, Mom, you're so much older than me. Like, how have you not heard of the let them theory? Like, are you stupid? Like, why are you complaining? And it just like it comes from it's not coming from a place of I want to help her have more peace in her life. It's coming from a place of like, I'm now better than you. And I have to be the one to coach you through this because you're handling this like such a dummy. You're so stupid. And it's that mentality that when people plateau in their personal development, if they continue their personal development, they'll do enough of it that they'll stop thinking that way because you can't continue to do personal development forever and then have a better than complex. Eventually, you do enough personal development where you get into the compassion room and you go, okay, yeah, maybe I was fortunate to be able to be introduced to the world of personal development, and some people just haven't. So hopefully they find it at some point. Does that mean that you are still patient with their excuses? No. Does that mean you let them dump all their complaints about life on you? No. But does that mean that at least what you're not doing that maybe you did earlier in your personal development journey is at least you're no longer judging them? It just kind of is what it is. It's like we're just going to let them be. Hopefully one day they seek to be better and solve their own problems. And until then, they're going to keep complaining. They're going to keep doing them, whatever. But you just get remove the better than complex. I see it a lot sometimes with people who start businesses. But then they start businesses and they go, "Oh, bro, the 9 to 5 just isn't it. Like you got to control your own time." And they're just like judging people who have jobs. Or people who go travel the world, they're like, yeah, take time off and go chase your dreams. You're only going to be young once. And they're out traveling, but they're not showcasing like being a point of inspiration for other people, saying, hey, well, why don't you go chase your dreams too? And being an example. They're like, I'm so much better than you because I made the decision to go travel and do all these things. It's like, well, no, you're not. We're all just human. So I think there's that problem where people they personally develop to a point and they get to a point where it's a checkbox off of a list where they read a book or listened to a podcast and they're like, "Oh, I heard what I needed to hear. I had no confidence, and now I listen to this podcast. It told me to be confident, and now I'm going to be confident." But then they stop personally developing, so they're being confident with nothing to back it up, with no reason. Like you keep your confidence by continuing to grow and personally develop because you're trying to become the best version of yourself. That's what keeps your confidence. Yeah. You don't just get to come, if you just come into a room confident for no reason, you're not developing, you bring nothing to the table, you're just arrogant. So I think what ends up happening is you get people that they plateau in their personal development journey. They hear what they need to hear, they start judging other people that aren't doing the same thing. But then because they stop personally developing, they actually start regressing. And fast forward the example, Greg, that I gave to you off air was I said it would be like if you and I were both 400 pounds. And then Greg goes and he does 75 hard and he drops 100 pounds, he's down to 300. Well, at 300 pounds, you'd still probably have at least 50 pounds, if not more, to lose. But instead of doing that, Greg goes, okay, 75 hard checkbox done. I said I did it. I can say that I did it now. And you're looking at me who's still 400 pounds and you're judging me for not completing the program. Well, fast forward a year later, Greg stops doing the program. He's back up to 400 pounds. Him and I are the exact same health, but he still has a judgmental attitude towards me because a year ago he did 75 hard. Well, when you say it that way, it sounds outrageous because there's mirrors. Greg can look and go, oh, Coop and I are the same size, the same fitness level, the same out of shape right now. So I can't give him a hard time about doing 75 hard because I did it one time, but clearly I didn't sustain any habits. But because personal development isn't as physically visible, people still do that. It's like, well, I read Ed Mylett's book 6 years ago, and it was the only personal development I did, and it helped raise my identity temporarily. And then when I raised my identity, I talked a bunch of crap about the people who maybe were lower identity, but then I didn't continue to do personal development. So I went back to being a lower identity person, but I'm still making fun of people that haven't read one book one time or started a business one time, and I'm just operating like I'm still better than them. It's the people that are like they're making fun of their boys from back home for their quote unquote small town mindset or their girls from back home for their small town mindset, but they've just left their hometown and taken their small mindset somewhere else and not really done anything with it. So I'm rambling at this point, but it's one of those topics that really bugs me because I think I would rather somebody not personally develop at all than do it to keep up with the Joneses and feel like you're better than the next person.
Yeah. But the better than complex is, I would say at some point, most people have it in some area of their lives. And it's an important place to come to. And I say that because it's an important place to learn from. And in that place, and thanks to Sean Taylor, mentor of mine, and he said this often. And early when I heard him say it, I went, oh, I thought that was a bad thing because the way society has framed the phrase and phrases I'm about to say is, man, you always do things and it's so righteous. Well, righteous and self-righteous are two very different things. And this is the better than complex. This is where when you're in that spot, the two are very different. In becoming the best version of yourself, you're supposed to bring others up with you, bring people around you, cheer for your friends louder and so loud so that they can't hear, the haters hating on them. But if you're going, oh, look at me, I'm the best. No, you're not. Right? It's because you're being self-righteous. And when you're self-righteous, sure, you live by your standards, your moral code, you're living on your terms, and you're not thinking about anybody else except yourself. At times, you do need to do that, especially as an athlete. Athletes need to be selfish at times. You're in the pursuit of an Olympic gold medal, a Stanley Cup, something like that. You need to fully focus on what you're doing. But you can do that righteously. You don't have to be self-righteously doing it. If you do things righteously, yeah, you're doing things by a standard, by a moral code, by principles that are solid and good and foundational on being a good human first. Because while you're becoming the best version of you, you're directly or indirectly helping others, whether it's just by proximity to you. Oh man, look at Coop. He's doing all this cool stuff. I should jump on it, or I should talk to him and go for a coffee and ask him why he's doing those things. And then you have this great conversation based on humility and progression and growth, not about, well, man, you're not doing that yet. What do you mean you're not, doing keto or all this fad stuff? What do you mean you're not? What do you mean you're not reading a book a day? What do you mean you're not going for 10,000 steps a day? You go, if you're righteous, you go, hey man, awesome. The reason why I started doing it is because actually my hip health was really terrible and I was sitting too long and I started just walking and now I feel better. My back doesn't hurt. My hips feel better. I started going to the gym again and it becomes this conversation of like great positive things that you've added into your life opposed to going, you're an idiot. You don't have a Garmin watch tracking all your haptics and things all day. What are you doing? Right? So Sean has said that to me multiple times and he's talked about it lots. He says it often and it's made me, every time he says it, it makes me really think about that very, very big distinction between being righteous and being self-righteous, being what you think is the best or being the best version of yourself, having a better than complex or bettering everybody around you. You choose. I'm not going to tell you which one to do, but I have an idea of which of those six are the better three.
Absolutely. Because here's what happens is one of the things I said earlier was when you regress in personal development, it's not as noticeable as if it were physical. Because you'd obviously start looking, you had a six pack before, now you got a beer gut type of thing. There's an obvious change that way. But the rooms that you actually want to be in, being around higher identity people, being around movers and shakers that are just really good, genuine people, or they're giving back to their community, or they're building something special. As much as you may not physically notice your regression, good people, and I'm not just talking about successful entrepreneurs, I'm just talking about good people in life. They notice. They notice when you progress and they notice when you regress. And they'll be the first people to look and they may not ever say it to you, but they'll look and go, man, they'll think this in their head. They'll go, I was so proud of you in your growth. It was actually really inspiring that you were taking the time to elevate your identity and showing up different and more positively and thinking about the world in a different light and wanting to your point, Greg, wanting to bring other people with you. But then when you plateaued and it became less about inspiring other people and bringing them with you into the look at me show, I'm so higher minded than you. And then you started regressing and it wasn't about bringing people along. You actually gave up on people and had this complex about you that you were above them. People notice that stuff and they may never tell you, but they definitely changed the way that they thought. They went from, man, that person's inspiring. That person's fun to be around. And there's a huge difference between, yes, to get to where you're trying to go, you're going to need to shed some weight in terms of relationships. You're going to lose some quote unquote friends. But if you're losing friends because you're being a jerk, that's a big difference between losing friends because your priorities in life just no longer align. If you said to me, Greg, you have a bunch of friends that are at the bar and you lost a bunch of friends because the only time you ever saw them was at the bar and you just don't go to that scene anymore, fine, so be it. But if you're losing good people from your life because you're treating them like they matter less because they're not in the same journey as you, that's to me, that's something that's preventable. That's on you. You're going to lose people because you're going to make them uncomfortable because you're chasing something that's bigger than what they're comfortable with. It's way different than losing somebody because you treated them like they were nothing because they didn't have the same vision as you for their life.
On that, I think too, where people continue to get confused on surrounding themselves by the right people. You don't all have to be on extremely similar paths. And in fact, if that's the only people around you, no, I shouldn't say that. There's a place for that. Your hockey team, your sports, any sports team, you are all on a very similar path. You're on your own because you're all your own individual athlete, but you're all on the same path. Championship, make the big show, make D1, D1 go pro, D1 go Olympics. Similar, very extremely, couldn't be more similar paths, but still very individualized. But having diversity in high level and really great people around you is super important too because it lends you perspective. And if you have such a singularity view and such a tunnel vision view in the world, it's again, there's a place for it, maybe, but then you lack experience of life. One of my really close friends, Mateus, we don't talk all the time. And I think I've talked about Mateus on the podcast before, actually. He is a particle physicist. He's doing his doctorate at Berkeley and UC Davis on particle physics. He did his master's in Copenhagen, ran the CERN machine, largest experiment in the world. When he talks to me about that stuff, I wish I understood it more so I could talk to other people about it on his behalf more because it's incredible to me. And when I talk about coaching and sports, he doesn't understand it to its totality because he's not of my world. We've been friends since grade 4, but he goes, "Oh man, that's so incredible. We are so different intellectually, in how we view the world, in where we live, in our culture, in our community, but we're still friends and we learn from each other every time we talk because again, he is on his own path and he is creating great success in his life and he's going to do great things. I'm creating some success and hopefully I do some great things as well. And we build each other. Again, we don't talk to each other every day or every month. Actually, I should give him a call after this. But having that diversity of ideas and vision and culture in your group and in your circle is really important too. And it can help you grow more. And there's a big reason why in the sports world, Commonwealth Games, Canada Games, Alberta Games, these intersport Olympics, right? All of these different athletes, yeah, they're all athletes, but they all have a different view and they're from different parts of the world. And it's such a cool mixture. And then you see these people becoming friends and learning from each other and then become better. It's like, why'd you become better? Well, I started hanging out with this surfer and I started doing underwater training and breathing and different training tactics. And it gave me a stimulus I'd never seen before. Cool, great. You would have never got that if you only hung out with your hockey buddies. So it's also in that path of being the best version of you. It's looking outside that singularity path of like this is my environment and I can't leave it. Well, if you never leave that environment, yeah, you might very well keep on that path of doing righteous things, but you'll lack that experience that you can gain from looking outside as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Here's my last thought on this topic before I turn it back to you to close us out is if you're someone who is in that spot where you feel like you've plateaued in your personal development, or maybe you haven't plateaued, but you're feeling a little bit stagnant on it, or you're kind of in the growth phase, but you feel like you're getting to the end of the growth phase and maybe and about to mature or plateau, uh, or you're growing still, but you can feel yourself being resentful towards other people who aren't growing, and you're making it about what they're not doing instead of about what you are doing. Uh, treat this as a wake-up call or a warning. You do not want to live your life resenting the rest of the world uh, for not doing their life exactly the way that you're doing yours. An important thing to remember is in the grand scheme of things, as you personally develop, everybody else that you look at isn't changing. It's you that's changing. Your friend at home that you think is small-minded, they're doing the same stuff today that they were doing a month ago that you loved. You just now don't love it as much because you've maybe grown out of it. So that's something to reflect on is you're mad at them for not changing, but did they ever want to in the first place? Was that ever their thing? So you could limit your time with that individual. You could distance yourself from them, but to see them in a negative light, I think that's more of an indictment on you because you saw them positively, now you see them negatively. How about you just see them as they are what they are? And when they're ready to change, if they want to come to me, I can lend them some perspective on what it's like to insert XYZ, start a business or lose some weight or gain some muscle or whatever somebody's striving to do. So I would challenge you if you feel that that's what your perspective is right now in personal development, treat this as the shot between the eyes that it needs to be. And if you're not there yet, maybe you're just starting your personal development journey or you're in your growth phase, do whatever it takes to continue to grow so that you aren't treating personal development like it's a checkbox, like it's just something that once you're done with it, you're done with it. You cannot save money for a few months and then stop for 40 years and be rich. You can't work out super hard for 3 months and then never work out again and be fit for life. And personal development is the exact same thing. Do you need to, if you feel like you're going super hard right now and you don't know if it's sustainable, do you need to go super hard forever? Probably not. But is the solution to stop doing it and let the pendulum swing to stopping completely? No, maybe you're reading 10 pages a day right now of a book. But when you stop, make it 1 page a day. Or if you still have the same amount of time, make it 1 page, but like read that 1 page a few times and study it and highlight some stuff and see what you can implement. Close the gap between idea to implementation. Close the gap on the time that you have a negative thought to the time it takes to etch a sketch your brain and get the negative thought out of your head and back into gratitude and excitement and positivity and back into your day. That's the stuff that if one of the things that helps me grow personally is I can look at a guy like Greg a lot of times, and Greg and I are polar opposites in the sense of I let a lot of things bother me for longer than they should, and Greg just doesn't. I don't think I've ever really caught Greg on something that's bothered him for more than like 10 seconds. We've maybe in the hundreds of conversations we've had, maybe like two or three of them have been venting style conversations. And Greg is way quicker than I am to, as we're venting, go, okay, well, is what it is, time to move on. Back to the vision, back to the focus, back to being grateful for life, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm at a phase of my personal development journey where it's how do I take things, and I'm way better than I was, but that can be an infinite game of how do you have things that bother you, but A, how do you strive to have less things bother you and the things that are still going to bother you for a less amount of time or take less away from your day so you can focus on your day and you can be happier and you can have more gratitude? How can you having more patience, having more compassion, having more understanding? I'm so far, I've mentioned this a few times, but I'm so far from perfect from it. I'm not bringing these things up because I'm great at it. I'm bringing these things up because these are things I'm actively working on that I'm way better at today than I was years and years ago, but I still have a long way to go on. So get some metrics here that don't learn about leadership once and treat it like a leadership course that you would have took in school and got a diploma on. Learn about leadership so that you can connect with people and understand that the traits behind connection and communication that we're talking about are a lifetime game of getting better. And on the other side of it, and you don't have to run a business to implement this stuff or think about it in this way. What if it can be about making your business grow and being a better entrepreneur, but it also could just be about being a happier person, getting to the end of your life and actually thinking, you know what? I left it all out there. I didn't leave anything in the tank. I lived a good life. The people around me that I loved knew that I loved them. I showed enough gratitude for the beauty of the world. I I took it all in and appreciated it more than I complained. This is all personal growth stuff that the world needs way more of. And it's counting on people, if you're listening to this, it's counting on people like you to continue to grow and evolve and do more of. And the ripple effect of you getting better without crapping on somebody else for not getting better with you and seeing it not as, so you getting better does not mean someone else is getting worse. That person is staying the same. And so long as you don't crap on them, if you feel like you're a 10 out of 10, but you're not treating the next person like they're a 2 out of 10, maybe your actions in life will actually inspire that person to become a 3 out of 10. And that's collectively how we make our communities a better place, is we don't do personal development for a checkbox, and we definitely don't do it to keep up with the Joneses or make us feel better than the next person. So that's my thoughts. And I'm glad we talked about this over the last 2 weeks because it's something that gets misconstrued in the PD world quite a bit.
I absolutely agree. And I'll wrap it with one idea and one action that you can act on right away. And I talked about it lots in the podcast. Coop did as well. It's not about you. Remember that in your journey in life, in your journey of becoming the best version of you and bringing up others with you. It's not about you. And a great way to start practicing that and continue. I still do and nobody is perfect. Somebody gives you criticism or constructive criticism or feedback of any kind. Don't go, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Well, if you know, you would have not done it. Instead, go, wow, I really appreciate you. Let me know that that's how you saw it, or that's how everybody saw it, or that's what I did. Or, wow, I wasn't looking at it that way. I saw it this way. Appreciate it. Thank you. Don't do the easy answer of when you get feedback, criticism, any kind of communication. Just yeah, I know. When you do that, you're letting everybody know that it's all about you. So just remember that. Till next week. See you later, Coop. Thanks for tuning in this week. If you found value in today's episode, like, subscribe, and share with someone in your circle so they too can build a stronger life and a more resilient future.